Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. We're just waiting for everybody to come on. Our Congresswoman is on the line, and we are happy to have our first virtual Zoom side chat, formerly our fireside chat, but due to social distancing and sheltering in place as the order, we are now doing the Zoom side chat so that we can have these time-sensitive conversations right in your own home. First, we wanted to hear how you're doing, Congresswoman. Like, we just want to know, how are you doing in this time right now, you personally?
Oh boy, okay. No, I'm doing fine. You know, physically, like everyone, angry and sad.
Right.
But also, you know, physical distancing, masks. I'm trying to stay off these airplanes, but I have to do them periodically to go to DC, and trying to make sure that we hold it down for the Black community on so many fronts, because what we know is happening. We have a pandemic upon pandemic upon pandemic, whether it's related to African American businesses, whether it's police murders, whether it's, COVID-19 disproportionately affecting us and killing us. You know, we have to address, and what we're trying to do now is make people really realize the systemic racism that permeates this whole country. I think now, finally, the rest of the country is seeing what we've known since 400 years ago.
Yes, Congresswoman. So we this is a conversation for us to see how the chamber can partner with you in what you're doing federally and what we're doing on the local level to help Black African American owned businesses. And we would love to hear how that works in the bill, how Congress pivoted so quickly with the COVID-19 pandemic happening and getting that money allocated, and then coming back and realizing that you needed to also allocate money to small minority-owned businesses. So we would love to hear some behind the scenes, and then what's happening, what you see that's coming forward for us.
Yeah, you know, in the first go around, you know, we put billions of dollars into helping small businesses, including the PPP, you know, the payroll protection program, in terms of the emergency loan, in terms of making sure that small businesses had access to all of the resources of the Small Business Administration, as well as financial institutions. So what we learned through that first go around was that most Black businesses weren't able to access those resources because of many problems. One is a lot of our businesses don't have those relationships with the financial institutions that SBA requires. In order to access PPP and the disaster assistance loans and what have you, you have to sort of go through SBA and deal with their bank. And of course, you know, sometimes we deal with their bank, sometimes we don't. But we found that most African American companies really weren't able to get in the mix on that. Went back to the drawing board, and we fenced in about $60 billion. That's the bill that recently got signed into law, and that $60 billion was for mainly quote unbanked and businesses which don't have those traditional connections, or for whatever reason, relationships with the larger banks. So that money was allowed to be deposited into community development financial institutions, into the minority development institutions, to micro lenders, to SBA certified development companies, and so community banks, credit unions. And so we put $60 billion without all of the stringent requirements that the first go round had. And so we carved out that $6 billion. I really hope that it's beginning to work here. I know a lot of the funds can be converted into grants, given if the criteria is met as it relates to some of the loans. And so I'm hoping that we have been able to do a little bit, at least, that would lead to some access to financial resources during these very dangerous and difficult times. And I'm not sure if my district and if businesses here have seen a difference in terms of the first go around, the first tranche of money, and the second, but I'd like to know if you have seen a difference, and what the gaps are and what we need to do. So when we do this next bill, we're able to even move forward to do a better job.
We have a question from Gabrielle Battle, who's a Duke student from Oakland, and she had a question regarding the killings that happened with George Floyd and other unarmed African American people. Congresswoman, how is your office working with, I guess, the youth to create a dialogue and conversation where they can express their anger and frustration, but have a creative dialogue for next steps on how to address this police brutality?
Well, I'm encouraging our youth to protest peacefully, and I'm encouraging them to hit the streets and, wear their masks, physically distance, and do all the the health protocols correctly as they protest. But we encourage them to do that and to raise their voices to say we're not going away and to demand that this country change. And so, every Friday we do some Zoom meetings we call it Party with a Purpose. We're working with our young people on all kinds of issues, getting tested, trying to help them understand that their voices and their perspective is what's going to carry the day. And then also they've got to connect it to the census and to voting in November. And so part of what I'm trying to do is make sure our young people know that I support them and encourage them, because I was a community worker with the Black Panther Party. Let me tell you, I protested every day, about something. I mean, then it was, again, police brutality, and it was the Black Panther Party right here in Oakland watching the police. And here we are in 2020 and still need to watch the police. And so, I've been trying to explain to our young people the history and letting them know that myself and others understand that Black lives do matter, and that we want to listen to them and are encouraged by their movement, and that they've got to keep going and get involved politically. And that's the heavy lift right now, because a lot of our young people don't think that politics leads to change.
The work that you're doing on the continent of Africa, are there things that you're doing to create opportunities for Black Africans and Black Americans to collaborate in business, or even collaborate for our betterment of all of us with that relationship on the continent?
Yeah, Shonda, good question. I've been doing this for 25 years. Even when I was in the legislature, I was taking Black businesses to Africa constantly. I do that. And a couple of things, of course, with COVID-19 right now, it's hard to travel. We can't do that, but we can do through technology, connecting with Black businesses here and on the continent of Africa. A couple of things: the African Development Bank, based in Cote d'Ivoire and Abidjan, they, fund a lot of partnerships between businesses in America as well as African businesses. And I've been trying to get more African American companies engaged with the African Development Bank, because they do infrastructure, they do contracts for X, Y, and Z. But also, there are a lot of opportunities for retail. African American women are unbelievable in terms of their creativity. And so we have people who want to sell to America, and we need to figure out ways to make sure that our Black businesses know who these organizations are and do that. The African Development Bank, the African Development Foundation are both very active in trying to identify Black businesses to partner with them. Your domestic operations and what you're doing, and it's hard during COVID to expand, but I think it's a good time to do research and to determine whether or not develop an international division makes sense for what you want to do with your business.
But we just want to thank you, Congresswoman, for your time. We hope next time we can actually see you, but we understand the circumstances of what you're doing, and we support you in the fight. And thank you for the conversation and for joining us. And we want you to be safe and continue to fight the good fight for us.
Thank you so much, Shonda and Kathy, and all of you, everyone on. Just know that my office is there to help. So anything with the federal government, if you get stuck, if you need help in facilitating whatever, please feel free to call Tatiana, my phenomenal district director, and Mar, and all of my team are there to serve, and they're doing a great job. And whatever we can do, we will do. Okay, and give me your ideas for the next bill.
We will. Thank you. And then we'll also let you know that if you want to find more information about membership and the resiliency program funds that the Oakland African American Chamber of Commerce have, it's www.oaacc.org. And we thank you, and I'm glad everybody came on video so we can see your faces. It's like we miss people during this COVID. We don't get to see people the same way. It's good to see your faces. And you know, one thing about the Zoom has been healing, because we were healing through COVID-19, and now we need to heal because we still see what we're having to deal with as African Americans in America. But as long as we keep connected and stay together and stay on our course, we will not let them have this victory. And we will make sure this too surely passes, so that our next generation is not having to have this same story, you know, 30 years later in their lives. Okay? So thank you, and God bless you all.